Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Shurtleff, and I want to thank you all for being here this morning. Let me tell you a short story. Well, not if I'm telling it, it'll be a long story. But in June 18th, 1815, the Duke of Wellington defeated Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo. And overnight, Wellington and the soldiers that fought with him became national heroes in Great Britain, because the Brits knew that if Napoleon had not been defeated, then he would have crossed the Channel, invaded the British Isles, and there wouldn't have been anyone to stop him. The Prince Regent, who became King George IV, had a special medal created to honor the soldiers that fought at Waterloo. It was a round medal made of silver, and it had a red and blue ribbon attached to it. They tell the story about an old man who was arrested in London in the late 1840s for being a vagrant. And he was brought to the Old Bailey to appear before a magistrate. And the magistrate, dressed in his black robe and his horsehair wig, looked down at this old man standing in front of him, dressed in rags. And the magistrate said to the old man, with contempt in his voice, "Before I sentence you to the workhouse for being a common vagrant, do you have anything to say in your defense?" And the old man reached into the lining of his torn coat, and there his fingers grabbed a piece of tarnished metal with red and blue threads hanging from it. This was his Waterloo victory medal. And raising the medal up, he said to the magistrate, "Your worship, I have one thing to say. I stood with Wellington at Waterloo." And the magistrate, staring at the silver medal with tears in his eyes, said, "The charges against this man are dismissed." The pride that that old soldier felt for service to the crown is the same pride that America's veterans feel for their service to our country. Last month, April 30th, was a special day for some veterans. April 30th marked the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. As someone who served in the U.S. Army in Vietnam from 67 to 68, I'm proud of my service, but I'm even prouder of the soldiers I served with. This Memorial Day weekend, we would be remiss not to honor the two men from Penacook who gave their lives for our country in Vietnam. Arthur Demers Jr., Corporal, United States Marine Corps, killed in action on July 2nd, 1967, serving with the 3rd Marine Division in Quang Tri Province, buried Calvary Cemetery, Penacook. Michael Saunders, Private First Class, United States Army, killed in action on December 10th, 1967, while serving with the 1st Cavalry Division, United States Army, buried Woodlawn Cemetery, Penacook. To them I say those words that Vietnam veterans have said to each other for over half a century. To you, Arthur, to you, Michael, thank you for your service and welcome home. Thank you all.
It's with great humility and great temerity that I follow the eloquent words of Steve Shurtleff. You know, a true hero in this community, not only for the service that he's provided to it over decades, but also as a veteran of the Vietnam War and a spokesperson for his generation, my generation as well. I will say this: every Memorial Day weekend, I'm a film buff. I love movies, and every Memorial Day weekend, I try to watch a movie that brings home to me the sacrifices of those who have fallen in the wars to defend our country. And last night, I watched for the umpteenth time, They Were Expendable, a John Ford film. John Ford was a noted filmmaker. He was known mostly for his Western films, and he's known today for his Western films, most of which starred John Wayne. John Ford became a commander in the U.S. Navy at the outbreak of World War II, and he led a film crew that was on the island of Midway when it was attacked by the Japanese during that pivotal battle. He then went and was at Omaha Beach during the invasion of Normandy, and he was so traumatized by what he saw at Omaha Beach that he went on a 2 or 3 day bender and finally was sent home by the Navy because he was useless as a combat filmmaker. When the war ended and he made his first film, it was They Were Expendable. It was based on the memoirs of the commander of the American Patrol Torpedo Boat, or PT Boat Squadron, that was in the Philippines at the outbreak of the war. And They Were Expendable was not a story of victory, it was a story of defeat. It was a story about the men and women who were stuck in the Philippines with no hope for relief, but who were told to sacrifice their lives to buy time for their nation to build a defense against the enemy. And as you watch that film, slowly the patrol boat squadron is reduced boat by boat, man by man, young kids and grizzled veterans. And in the end, John Wayne's character calls the nurse he's fallen in love with to say goodbye, and she's on Corregidor, and they're cut off mid-sentence. And everyone who watched that film when it was released knew that Corregidor was going to fall to the Japanese, and that the defenders of Bataan and Corregidor would experience the Bataan Death March and years of brutal captivity. And so that film focused on that sacrifice, and the sacrifice focused on victory, and that's what we focus on today. The sacrifice made by the men and women who served with Steve, and the men and women who served with my father and my father-in-law, and the men and women who served from this community in World War I, and in the Spanish-American War, and in the Civil War, and in the Mexican War, and in the War of 1812, and in the War of American Independence. To those who fell, to those who never had the chance to be a revered veteran, we owe our thanks, we owe our dedication, and we honor here today. So let's keep them in our hearts and minds as we walk away from this celebration, a celebration that is tinged with the sadness of honoring those who have fallen. Thank you.
Thank you.